Virtual reality is known as one of the most creative and innovative technologies of our time. Three-dimensional interactive technology and sounds within a headset allow you to fully enter the virtual world. A world so vivid and real that idea of reality and virtual reality begin to blur as more and more technology is developed. My name is Kendall Kimmons. I'm here to talk about today about the virtual reality, manipulation of human emotion. And my research question I'll be answering today is, to what extent does the interaction between humans and virtual reality three-dimensional stimuli influence the human emotion of fear? And my argument today will be that virtual reality is perfectly capable of influencing fear responses by stimulating the brain's fear receptors, and being able to also diminish fear-related illnesses and disorders. These are the topics we'll be going over today, and we'll first get started over with stimulation. Essentially, virtual reality immerses the user within a virtual three-dimensional world. The senses are taken over by visuals, audio, and even smells that coincide with the user is looking at or where the environment the user is in. As stated by Mario Laurie Ryan, the breadth of information is achieved through a collaboration of multiple media, images, sound, olfactory signals, as well as through the use of technical devices allowing for tactile sensations, also known as touch, which shows that if done right, virtual reality can override your own sense of reality. With immersion comes presence. It is essentially a dimensional construct, and as it describes the extent to which a user feels present in a virtual reality environment. As stated by Julia Diemmer, who specializes in clinical psychology, presence is what gives the virtual reality its shock and awe, as it fully immerses and makes the user feel like they're actually within that virtual world. However, a caveat to this could also be the fact that it can cause potential psychological harm, as a virtual world could seem too real for them. These factors can change and alter or manipulate our emotions, like fear, is what I'll be getting into right now. Of course, one example of such manipulation is from Mari Tafil's findings from an experiment that utilized VR with those who had cynophobia, also known as the fear of dogs. These people exhibit fear from seeing or hearing a dog, and based off these findings, virtual reality is just as impactful in this realm, even though these dogs are digital. They're not real. You can see here in this graph as the group recorded a high amount of SUDs, which is also known as subjective units of fear. To make clear, audio cues, visual cues, the effect of presence and immersion, and threat associations can make all of this possible, as the brain interprets these events as real unconsciously. Essentially, for the biology level, the brain goes through acquisition association methods in a flight or fight in a matter of seconds, as that is how humans are naturally wired. The mind interprets the information acquired from these senses and it acts based off it, even though the information is not exactly real. With this in presence, virtual reality, if used in the wrong way, can create a really harrowing experience that can cause harm in the brain. On the other hand, however, virtual reality is capable of doing the exact opposite, which is therapy. Let's start off with an example from the story. Through the tunnel, a college board stimulus by Doris Lessing, 11-year-old boy Jerry struggles to find and locate an underwater tunnel, but eventually goes through it. However, during this experience, he gets stuck underwater, trapped underwater, surrounded by nothing but water, feet deep below the surface of the ocean, or the bay. Situations like these can leave lasting psychological effects. It can be evident when the boy's desire to go to the bay was effectively snuffed out after this event. As phobias like claustrophobia, aquaphobia, or even thalassophobia can develop after having an experience such as this. Essentially, virtual reality therapy aims to aid with these types of fear-related conditions. For example, as stated by Hunter G. Hoffman from the publisher Scientific American, in a subsequent controlled study of 23 patients diagnosed with clinical phobia, 83% report a significant decrease in their fear of spiders. Before treatment, these patients would not go within 10 feet of a caged tarantula without high anxiety. Exposure to certain stimuli for a correct amount of time will allow the patient to adapt to these types of stimuli that they're experiencing. It is similar to getting used to a fear in real life, but without having to actually face the subject of fear personally. It will be easier to treat these several fears out as it could be, as trying to treat them in real life could be also costly in time and money. This example from Rachel Waldrop from the National Academy of Sciences shows an example of exposure. For example, war veterans who's developed and experienced PTSD and other trauma-related syndromes can benefit from virtual reality therapy, utilizing the phenomenon present. You can see here in these virtual simulations, as it allows them to get really close as possible to the real event that occurred. Which also allows them to see it, digest it, and eventually get used to seeing this type of content, allowing their fear to slowly but surely decrease. So to conclude, virtual reality is perfectly capable of direct emotional manipulation in the majority of ways. The stimuli is not real, and you personally would not know it is real, but the brain doesn't interpret it in this way. As to it, virtual reality feels real because that's what you're taking in, that's what you're seeing, that's what you're feeling, that's what you're hearing. And then which ends up triggering fight responses and other categories. On the other hand, it can also reduce these feelings of fear as exposure therapy to these certain fear subjects. Of course, certain things must be taken into account, like possible psychological damage and harm to the user, along with the limiting factor of the cost to implement virtual reality therapy in the first place. At the end of the day, virtual reality is developing at a rapid pace. As it becomes more and more advanced, it will look and feel just how we experience this world real. Okay. Thank you, Marie. Thank you.
All right, two quick questions. How reliable were the sources that you used, and then how do you know they were?
I knew my sources were reliable because I sourced them using EBSCO, and I did some background looking into the authors, finding that they're coming from Academy of Sciences and other highly classified, highly positioned scientific groups.
Okay. And if you had more time, what additional research would you do?
I would have looked more into the actual biology, how it actually affects the certain parts of the brain. That's what I would go into.